Hi, everyone. Welcome to Source Snack Break. I am Ren with Source. Today is Tuesday, July 21st. Before we get started, I'll explain a couple things about the webinar tool. You're all muted automatically, but you do have access to the live chat there on the right, so you can pop in your favorite emoji to try it out. And you can also use the live chat to ask any questions or comment. We love questions. Emmy, our guest today, is an amazing resource, so bring on the questions. We love it. We're also going to send you a recording of the webinar after the presentation so you can reference it later or send it to a friend. Today, I'm super excited. Our guest is Emmy. She is the Sustainability and Product Specialist with Mecho, and she is going to get into the details. I love this. Hey, Emmy, how are you? Before we start, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, and can you tell us about this little squirrel friend and your new COVID habits, shall we say?
Yes. Oh, the squirrel. I'm going to start with myself and then move on to that topic. So hi, everyone. Ren, thank you so much for having me. This is awesome, and I'm really excited to be here to talk about Mecho and some really awesome products. So as Ren said, I'm the Sustainability and Product Specialist at Mecho. So kind of my journey with sustainability has really evolved since I started with Mecho about, I'm going to say it's almost 3 years now. So I kind of started off as a sustainability coordinator with a colleague of mine and our 2-person sustainability team. So a lot of what I worked on was, certification maintenance and material health. So looking at what's in our products, how do we align with the certifications that are out there in the built environment? And, sustainability it encompasses so many different facets at Mecho. So there's a lot of different things that I've kind of touched and worked on in relation to sustainability and been able to work in those capacities across different product lines. So, do a lot with LEED projects, living building challenge projects well, and work with architects and other stakeholders on any questions, sustainability related topics. So lots going on in my sustainability world, but more importantly, this new habit of mine. So I'm a city person. I'm normally in New York City, and one of my favorite hobbies is people watching. And since the quarantine, I've come out to the suburbs, and let me tell you, squirrel can be just as exciting. These critters have the lives and dramas all of their own. So I will, in my little breaks during my day, I'll go out, and sometimes there will be like gangs of them, and like 6 of them just huddled together. Some are hiding nuts in all different kinds of places, and I learned that they forget where their nuts are all the time, so they're kind of just like scrambling around. Really fun to watch. So
that is amazing. Designers, feel free to chat in the weird habits you have developed since going into quarantine. I know we're all doing the best we can. I love that you've picked squirrels. Like I was telling Emmy earlier, we have gotten very into watching the hummingbirds that come to our feeders and have named them. Have you named the squirrels?
I haven't. They're just so hard to keep track of. And unfortunately to me, like they definitely have their own personalities, but in terms of naming, I haven't gotten there yet.
You're good. I feel you. Yeah. All right, so let's dive in. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of Mecho? Because I think it's actually quite interesting. And that gives us sort of a foundation on like where you've been and where you're going.
That's exactly kind of how I wanted to frame this discussion. Sustainability is my passion, and I can always talk about those products, but I like to kind of frame it talking about our history too, because I think sustainability is so ingrained in our mission. And so just to start with a little bit of background, the history of Mecho is one that I find so interesting. So Joel Berman, who actually sadly passed away a couple months ago, was actually the creator of the solar roller industry back in 1969. So how it all kind of started is he was looking for different materials, or he was actually shopping and came across patio furniture and looked at the fabric and was thinking, well, could we use this for a shade fabric? So he worked with that supplier and actually developed the first solar fabric, and along with the Mecho, the first roller clutch. And so innovation has kind of been the driving force between, the driving force of Mecho throughout its history. So from the invention of the roller solar systems to the invention of the solar track automation system, which is actually the first Windows-based automation program. So since then, it's really been this journey of finding ways to innovate and really taking whatever project is kind of thrown at us and coming up with a solution that works and can optimize daylight and spaces. And as I said, sustainability has always been a big part of Mecho's history and part of its culture. Back in the 70s, during the oil embargo, energy efficiency was a huge topic. And the debate really wasn't which shade manufacturer, it was more why the roller solar system versus any other type of window covering, such as drapery. And that was because the solar shade system really could be a strategy used to reduce artificial lighting loads. It was a strategy to enhance daylighting in those spaces and really place that story. So that being said, years down the line, that's kind of when our cradle to cradle story started. So, today I'm going to talk about kind of two of our big cradle to cradle products, but, kind of where our story starts is back in the early 2000s. So I think it was 2013, we came out with our first cradle to cradle product, and that's the EcoVeil solar fabric. And really, there was something called the sick building syndrome that emerged in the 90s, where it's this idea that chemicals and materials in the built environment were starting to actually make us sick. And one of those red flag materials was PVC. So PVC is actually the tried and true, the legacy material for solar fabric in the industry. And we were kind of tasked with how can we create a solar fabric that's going to perform similarly to a typical PVC fabric that doesn't have the sustainability, or that's going to perform similar to a PVC fabric, but has positive environmental impacts. So that's kind of where our cradle to cradle story began, and I can kind of talk through how that came to be. And Ren, are you still on? I think you disappeared. Hello? Uh-oh. Hey, Ren? Just give me 1 second. Okay. I think Ren might have dropped off. So I'm gonna jump back in. So we were trying to create this sustainable fabric that was going to perform similar to a PVC fabric, but had more optimized sustainability characteristics. And that's when we started using the cradle to cradle design methodology to design this product. So at that point, we were actually working with William McDonough, who was the founder of Cradle to Cradle. And what the intention, for those of you that aren't familiar with Cradle to Cradle, it is, before it was a certification program, it was actually a design methodology that that could be deployed to create, or a design methodology that was aimed at designing products that could be perpetually cycled that had healthier inputs. So we use this design methodology to create the EcoVeil fabric. And so EcoVeil is a 100% thermoplastic olefin, or it's composed of thermoplastic olefin yarns. It is fully recyclable. It's fully recyclable and is actually certified cradle to cradle bronze. So what it does is it looks at not just, it kind of looks at the product under a microscope, right? So It's looking at what goes in the product and assesses what's in the product. It also looks at operations in terms of energy usage, water usage, and then considers end of life. So the idea is the product will never be in a landfill, that will never have to go to a landfill. It can be perpetually cycled. So that's where we started with our cradle to cradle design journey. And what I want to start talking about is the transition to EcoVeil Sheer, which is what I'm really excited to talk about today. So another part of cradle to cradle certification is that it's a continual. It promotes continuous improvement, and so what you're supposed to be doing is continuously optimizing that product as part of the certification. So that's when looking at EcoVeil, we wanted to look at what were the challenges from a sustainability standpoint, what were the challenges with that product and how could we optimize it? And so my colleague actually worked on EcoVeil Sheer, which was looking at the problem with EcoVeil was it had a chemical flame retardant, and that was what was needed to, or it had a chemical flame retardant, which is a big, it's a big challenge from a material health standpoint, right? So knowing that, she worked with other suppliers, she worked with suppliers to create, or to find a PVC-free fabric that could be cradle to cradle certified, that didn't have the flame retardant aspect. So that's where we came up with EcoVeil Sheer. It's 100% polyester, fully cyclable, and does not. It's the first shade cloth, solar shade cloth to be certified that does not have, or the first solar shade cloth to not have a chemical flame retardant. So it's a really exciting fabric. It's made of something called bicomponent yarns. It looks like Ren's power went out. Okay.
I'm here if you need anything. I was to say, I'm trying to get her dialed in on speakerphone, so she might be able to be back in a second, but you're doing a wonderful job. So keep going. I'll try and get her connected into you though. Okay.
Okay, no problem. So just talking about EcoVeil Sheer. So what's exciting about EcoVeil Sheer is, again, not just the sustainability attributes in terms of it's cyclable, it's chemical flame retardant free. It's, as I was saying, it's also composed of something called bicomponent yarn. So kind of unlike a typical polyester fabric, like a filament polyester fabric, such as, it tends to be a softer fabric. It's not quite as strong as a standard PVC fabric. And typically to give it those strength attributes into piece diet, you have to put it in a chemical bath where it loses that inherent flame retardantness. So you have to add back in a chemical flame retardant. With the bicomponent polyester, the material itself is inherently flame retardant, and you're able to weave it kind of like a standard weave. So from a performance perspective as well, it's a really interesting fabric because it has all these great sustainability attributes, while at the same time you can create these intricate weaves such as a basket twill weave. You can have different colored yarns so that you can have a more complex color profile. So it's a really cool, it's one of my favorite products. It's also Healthier Hospitals Initiative compliant because it does not have that flame retardant. And the Healthier Hospitals Initiative was an initiative started by healthcare institutions to find interior products that were free of different chemical categories, with chemical flame retardants being one. So we're really excited to comply with that initiative. Okay, so it looks like here's the EcoVeil Sheer slide, just so you guys can see that this is a picture of the EcoVeil Sheer.
I'm going to move forward on any of the slides. Just let me know and I can move you forward.
Okay, yeah, no problem. And just while we're talking about cradle to cradle, kind of our strategy moving forward, because as I said, sustainability is ingrained in everything we do. And really the cradle to cradle design methodology has been part of our new product development process, really since we came out with EcoVeil. So really our strategy is not just to look at fabric, but to also look at the entire system together. So in order to have a fully certified shade system and a shade product, we also have Cradle to Cradle for our hardware systems. So right now we have Cradle to Cradle certification and other documentation for our manual hardware systems. So using a Cradle to Cradle certified fabric such as EcoVeil, as well as using the hardware system, the certified manual hardware system, you create this circular system, this Cradle to Cradle system, which is so important because the way we look at a product, it's not just the fabric, it's also the system that it uses, right? So that end of life, you can fully cycle that whole material, that whole product, instead of just one component of it. And we're also very excited to announce we're also working on the beta 4 version of Cradle to Cradle for our motorized hardware system. So we will also be able to have fully certified motorized shade systems as well. So really excited about that. So if we just go to the next slide.
This one, do you want me to go?
Yeah, so,
back?
Okay.
Sorry.
So just, no, it's totally fine. You know, I think, so we've covered EcoVeil Sheer. We can move on to the next slide. So I think just taking a step back, because I've talked a lot about Cradle to Cradle and kind of our journey there. Just in terms of what do designers need to know, we've talked about kind of sustainability attributes, but when we're looking at fabric, there's so many other considerations I think it's important for designers to take into account. And there are all these other attributes that not only just impact environmental characteristic, but there's performance attributes, there's aesthetic attributes of fabric. I think, you know, we tend to joke like these aren't your grandma's curtains. Shading is a really technical product. It can be used to really optimize a space and really optimize daylight in a space, which is so important. And, you know, there's different projects will have different goals. And I think the most important thing is when we're looking at fabric and trying to decide what would be the best type of product for this space, it's important to take a step back and first think about what is the space, or what is the use of the space, and what are the role of the people using the space. Because once you have an idea of those two different facets, then you can really decide, okay, what's the kind of protection I need? Because the ultimate goal of shading, right, is to preserve comfort and protect against heat and glare. So there are so many different attributes of fabric, and I think just understanding what those different attributes are and juggling them with your project goals are really going to help to really optimize this product. And there are so many different ways that you can kind of look at a specific fabric. For example, you know, whether you're looking at solar optical properties or different color profiles, how they fit into a space can vary. So understanding those different attributes are definitely important. And one great way to do that is to definitely connect with reps, use resources. We have so many awesome reps that can walk you through all different case scenarios and make suggestions. Use resources. There's, you know, even resources like Thesaurus to get all the ammo you need to make those decisions about what kind of fabric, and even what kind of, also important, also considering the system that the fabric goes with, right? Like if you want to truly optimize daylighting in a space, we always say automation is going to raise and lower those shades based on what you need. But just walking through those different scenarios and using resources at your fingertips is
that's awesome.
Is so important.
Helpful. And yeah, if you guys have other questions, I'm also going to make sure I move forward. So we've got contact information, and also if you go on the Source website and look at the rep binder, you'll be able to see all the contacts for Mecho Shade. You can find whoever is in your area. See if we have any other questions. And if you have any final things that you want to say, I'm sorry about the little snafu we had with Ren disappearing. I hope her power is back soon. And sorry I had to kind of jump in blind to this, but it's really, really great to see what you guys are working on. And I know we're all excited about products that you guys have. I'm also going to put up now, if you guys want to order samples or get more information, you can click that link there. And I will also throw up a link for our next snack break. So if you're interested in attending another one, we've got those. I don't see any other questions. Is there anything else that you have today? Yeah, I was going to say, any final comments or? No, that's okay.
Oh, sorry about that. No, I mean, I just want to thank you guys for hosting me. And it was so great to be able to talk to you about some of our products. And yeah, I mean, my final word is always, I mean, never be afraid to reach out to us. Times are crazy and unexpected. So we're constantly trying to innovate and face challenges that the market's facing now. So yeah, just happy to.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for attending, and have a good rest of your afternoon.
Thank you. Bye.